All right, Auburn recruiting fans, we can take a collective breath. The third commitment has finally arrived after a little bit of an extended drought. Let's talk about who that is and what it means for Auburn football in the future. But before we do that, I want to welcome you back to the channel. If you are a member of the Auburn family, or if you are a fan of another persuasion, this is the E2C Network, where we cover the whole of the Auburn experience. Might tend to be Auburn sports heavy here, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the content, and thank you to members of our booster club, like Thomas Manville, who helped produce videos like this. I got the impression on one of our recent live streams that people were getting a little bit stressed about the lack of recruiting news for Auburn football that had been transpiring from about the spring until now in the middle of the summer. My case to you all would be normally that's usually a slower part for Auburn, just in recent history at least, so it's nothing new. But I think the frustration comes from a lot of commitments that said they were going to commit and then they end up not committing. Well, now you can actually celebrate because we finally have a commitment to talk about, and it's been a little bit of a time since we've been able to break one of these down. The big breaking news, Jeremiah Cobb out of Montgomery, Alabama, has finally committed to the Auburn Tigers on Friday, July 1st. The Tigers getting July started off on the right note. It is the third commitment for the Auburn Tigers in 2023. It is their second one on offense and their first running back of this recruiting cycle. While Jeremiah Cobb had been recruited by several high-profile programs, recently he had narrowed down his list to Auburn, Tennessee, and Clemson, and even had taken some recent visits to Tennessee as well, maybe getting their fans a little bit excited about him. But all along, most people thought that he was going to stay with the Tigers and commit to the Tigers, which he has now, making him the third commit in this class. Let's talk about some specifics of getting to know him as a player and as an individual as the third commit. As we already talked about, Montgomery, Alabama, Montgomery Catholic Preparatory School. In fact, I'm from Montgomery, Alabama, and I know exactly the school, drove by it billions of times, so it's kind of a cool little connection, personal connection for me. He's 5'11", 190 pounds approximate, depends on who you subscribe to and who you get your information from, but you get the general idea in terms of measurables. Another fun fact for you, he's also a two-time, I believe, track star at Montgomery Catholic, which tells you one thing: this guy knows speed. In terms of stats that we can really look at, we'll talk about his junior season because it's the most recent, and obviously he hasn't played his senior season yet. He broke 2,100 yards, over 11 yards per carry, and got 30 touchdowns. That is just rushing alone. Couple that with about 560 receiving yards and 8 more touchdowns on top of that. It really shows you that not only is he a fast guy, he's a versatile guy, which probably means good hands, good feet, overall great athlete, but a really great running back as well. A solid pickup for the Tigers. Now, this is the part of the video where I like to dive into what it means. And a lot of this is just speculation, right? But we have information to work off of to kind of speculate on what this could mean for the future of Auburn football going forward in terms of recruiting, the depth chart, and maybe even playing time for him. The first thing about what it means for Auburn football is really not even an Auburn football program, but the fans. Hopefully, as I've already addressed, this will calm some of y'all's nerves in terms of us not having a commit recently, and maybe, just maybe, this will get the cycle going a little bit more with some steam. We'll encourage some others to go ahead and commit that have been hinting that they might. I don't know, but it can't hurt the situation. Most sites think that he is a 4-star recruit, and being so highly regarded by so many high-level programs, you would seem to think that this guy would be the feature back of your class. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that he will be the only one, because I don't know that. I can't predict the future. But I can sit here and say, outside of 1 or 2 other major running backs that might be considering Auburn, that he is going to be that feature guy at this position for the 2023 class. So it's nice to go ahead and already have that piece so early settled in the 2023 recruiting cycle. Let's talk about depth chart. And I know it's way too early for that. The dude's still got to play his senior year. We've still got a season to play, but let's just talk about it because it's what we like to do here. Now, in this scenario, we're going to assume that when he arrives on campus, Tank Bigsby is gone from Auburn. I'm assuming this guy is going to have a great year and is going to go into the NFL draft and get ranked rather high. Just my assumptions. I've got my orange and blue glasses on, but that's truly what I believe is going to happen. So Tank's gone. Who does that leave currently still at Auburn at running back? Obviously, you immediately think of Jarquez Hunter. You can think of Damari Alston, who's been kind of learning underneath Tank Bigsby right now. But you've also got Sean Jackson, Jordan Ingram, and anybody else that I may be forgetting or that might be coming in later down the line. But that's who we talk about right now, is those 4 names without Tank Bigsby. Now, obviously, Jarquez is going to be probably, if he stays healthy, your feature back going forward. Right behind him, Damari Alston, and not trying to take Sean and Jordan out of the equation, but it's probably likely that's going to happen, although Sean has already surprised a lot of people, garnering himself a scholarship. So don't count him out, or Jordan as well. So where does he fit into this equation in terms of depth chart? Well, I don't think it's immediate, right? I think we are pretty well set at running back for the next year or so, even past this season with Tank potentially leaving. I think the big question, though, becomes what happens with Jarquez and his injury? Is it something that's going to nag him for the rest of his career? If it does, you could see an opportunity arise for a guy like Jeremiah Cobb to be able to find some more playing time. Now remember, all of these guys can participate in about 4 games before they lose their eligibility for a year. So you probably will get to see Jeremiah Cobb in the 2023 season, in some scrap time, in some of those lesser games. But in terms of meaningful, bigger numbers and time out on the field, you might have to wait a year. I would personally like to see them redshirt him, let him learn from the guys that are already here. And lastly, what it means for the program. Does it mean that there are any more to come? We've already kind of addressed this, but that's really just kind of the big question. Is Auburn done now that you have a feature back? Running back and quarterback seem to be one of those positions where you kind of look at them as if you get your guy, you're kind of done. Not always the case, especially at running back. So I really think, though, that outside of someone else getting the interest of the coaching staff that's maybe not as highly regarded by a lot of schools and them finding a diamond in the rough, or if some bigger, let's say bigger, quote unquote, star out there at the running back position all of a sudden decides, I want to be a part of this, then maybe you might see that happening. But for now, Jeremiah is our guy, and I hope he's our guy going forward into the future, even if it takes him a few years to get onto serious playing time on the field. So those are my thoughts on Jeremiah Cobb committing to Auburn, becoming the 3rd overall commit for the 2023 class. I want to know from you in the comments section what you think about this. How do you think it's going to shape out for him? When do you think we'll actually see significant playing time for him? Let's keep that conversation going down below. Also, as a reminder, we are currently doing our E2C Network 2022 survey. There's a link in the description. If you haven't done that, please do that. It takes about 5 minutes and it helps us learn what you guys want to see here on the YouTube channel, but also on our podcast and social media as well. Before you head out of here, I want to remind you of a couple of things. If you haven't, make sure you smash that like button if you enjoy this type of content, and also make sure you're subscribed along with hitting the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads or live streams. If you're looking for ways to help support our content, check out the links in the description, such as becoming a channel member here by hitting the join button or joining the Booster Club at patreon.com/E2C Network. Thank you for tuning into the E2C Network, where we cover the whole of the Auburn experience. War Eagle.